There exists within the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda a profound understanding of human suffering and its relationship to our own consciousness. Among his most liberating insights is the recognition that no external force, no person, no circumstance can truly insult or hurt us without our permission. This is not merely philosophical speculation or spiritual platitude, but a practical truth that, when understood and applied, transforms our entire relationship with the world around us. Before we continue, let's pause a moment, hit like button, comment below about your thought and subscribe so you don't miss any video inspired by Yogananda's teaching. Thank you very much. The first truth Yogananda illuminates is that insults and injuries exist only in our reaction to them. When someone directs harsh words toward us, those words are merely vibrations in the air, sounds that carry no inherent power to wound. The injury occurs not in the speaking but in our receiving, not in the external event but in our internal response. We are the ones who take those words, process them through our consciousness, compare them against our self-image, and generate the emotional pain we experience. The insult, therefore, is not something done to us but something we do to ourselves in response to external stimuli. Consider the nature of an insult itself. Someone may call you foolish, incompetent, or unworthy. These are merely opinions, judgments filtered through another person's limited perception and conditioned mind. They speak from their own pain, their own fears, their own distorted lens of reality. Their words reflect their inner state far more than they reflect any objective truth about you. When we understand this deeply, we recognize that taking offense at an insult is like taking offense at a mirror for showing us a distorted reflection. The distortion is in the mirror, not in us, and we need not accept its testimony as truth. Yogananda taught that our true nature is the immortal soul, a spark of the divine that cannot be diminished by any earthly circumstance. When we identify with this deeper reality rather than with the ego self that craves approval and fears rejection, insults lose their power entirely. The ego is fragile precisely because it is false, a constructed identity built from memories, social conditioning, and mental habits. It requires constant validation from the external world to maintain its sense of reality. When that validation is withdrawn or when criticism is offered, the ego feels threatened and generates suffering as a defense mechanism. But the soul knows no such vulnerability. It exists in a state of eternal completeness, requiring nothing from the external world to confirm its worth. When we rest in soul consciousness, even for a moment, we experience an invulnerability that is not hardness or defensiveness but rather a profound softness and openness. We can hear criticism without being wounded by it, observe anger without absorbing it, witness hatred without reflecting it back. This is not because we have built walls around our hearts, but because we have discovered that our true self dwells in a dimension beyond the reach of worldly harm. The second truth concerns the nature of emotional pain and its origins within our own attachments and expectations. We suffer not because of what happens to us, but because reality fails to conform to our desires about what should happen. When someone treats us with disrespect, we suffer because we believe we deserve respect. When someone rejects us, we suffer because we desire acceptance. When someone criticizes us, we suffer because we expect praise or at least neutrality. The pain, therefore, arises from the gap between our expectations and reality, not from reality itself. Yogananda emphasized that attachment is the root of all suffering, and this includes attachment to how others perceive and treat us. When we release our attachment to being seen in a particular way, when we surrender our demand that others behave according to our preferences, we simultaneously release the mechanism by which they can hurt us. This does not mean we become passive or allow ourselves to be mistreated. Rather, it means we respond to mistreatment from a place of inner freedom rather than reactive pain. This principle extends to physical pain as well. While the body may experience sensations we label as painful, our suffering is amplified enormously by our mental resistance to those sensations. Yogananda demonstrated remarkable control over physical pain through his yogic practices, showing that consciousness can transcend the body's signals. But even for those of us without such advanced abilities, we can observe how our relationship to pain determines our experience of it. Two people with identical injuries may suffer vastly different amounts depending on their mental state, their beliefs about the pain, and their resistance to the present moment. The third truth reveals that those who attempt to hurt us are themselves suffering and unconscious. Hurt people, as the saying goes. When we understand that cruelty and insult arise from inner pain, ignorance, and disconnection from one's true nature, we can respond with compassion rather than counterattack. This does not excuse harmful behavior, but it contextualizes it in a way that prevents us from taking it personally. Yogananda taught that all beings are essentially divine but have forgotten their true nature. When someone acts from ego, fear, or malice, they are acting from this state of forgetfulness, from a place of profound inner poverty. They are like sleepwalkers stumbling through life, causing damage not from genuine malevolence but from unconsciousness. When we recognize this, we can maintain our inner peace even in the face of hostility. We see the person behind the behavior, the suffering soul behind the harsh words, the frightened child behind the aggressive adult. This perspective transforms our relationships entirely. Instead of meeting anger with anger, insult with insult, we can respond with a centered presence that neither absorbs the negativity nor reflects it back. We become like the earth, which accepts both rain and garbage without complaint, transforming everything into nourishment. This is not weakness but the highest strength, the power that comes from being rooted in something deeper than the ego's endless need to defend itself. Moreover, when we refuse to be hurt by others' actions, we often defuse the situation entirely. Much of human conflict is sustained by the back and forth of reaction and counterreaction. When one party refuses to participate in this dance, the conflict loses its momentum. The person who sought to hurt us finds no satisfaction in their attack because we have not provided the reaction they expected. This can be profoundly disorienting to them and may even prompt self-reflection. The fourth truth is that our invulnerability to insult and injury is not something we must create but something we must uncover. It is our natural state, obscured by layers of conditioning, false beliefs, and identification with the limited self. Every spiritual practice, every meditation, every moment of self-inquiry serves to dissolve these obscuring layers and reveal the invulnerable essence that has always been present. Yogananda's teachings provide practical methods for realizing this truth. Through meditation, we experience states of consciousness where the usual boundaries of self dissolve, where we touch something vast and unchanging within us. In these moments, we directly perceive that our true identity is not the small, vulnerable ego but the infinite consciousness that witnesses all experience without being affected by it. This is not merely a belief or concept but a lived reality that becomes increasingly accessible through practice. The practice of self-inquiry also serves this uncovering. When we feel hurt by someone's words or actions, we can pause and ask ourselves, who is hurt? What part of me feels wounded? As we investigate, we discover that it is always the ego, the constructed self-image, that feels injured. The deeper awareness that observes this hurt remains untouched, peaceful, complete. By repeatedly identifying with this witnessing awareness rather than with the ego's reactions, we gradually shift our center of gravity from the vulnerable to the invulnerable. Forgiveness, too, plays a crucial role in realizing our natural invulnerability. When we hold grudges and nurse resentments, we keep ourselves bound to the very people and events we wish to be free from. We replay the injury in our minds, generating fresh pain with each repetition. Forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior or pretending it didn't happen. Rather, it is about releasing our attachment to the story of being wronged, letting go of the identity of victim, and reclaiming our power to choose our inner state regardless of external circumstances. Living from this understanding does not mean we become indifferent or detached in an unhealthy way. We can still have preferences, still work to create positive conditions in our lives, still set boundaries with those who behave harmfully. But we do so from a place of clarity and strength rather than from reactive pain. We recognize that protecting ourselves from harmful situations is wise, but we don't need to carry emotional wounds from those situations. We can acknowledge that someone's behavior is unacceptable while simultaneously recognizing that their behavior has no power to diminish our essential worth or disturb our inner peace. This teaching has profound implications for how we move through the world. When we are no longer controlled by the fear of being hurt or insulted, we become truly free. We can speak our truth without being paralyzed by concern over others' reactions. We can love without the desperate neediness that comes from seeking validation. We can engage fully with life without the constant defensiveness that exhausts so much of our energy. We become like the sky, which allows all weather to pass through it without being changed by any of it. The journey to embodying this truth is gradual for most of us. We may understand it intellectually long before we can live it consistently. There will be moments when we forget, when someone's words or actions trigger our old patterns of reaction, when we find ourselves hurt despite our best intentions. This is natural and part of the process. The key is not to judge ourselves for these moments, but to use them as opportunities for deeper practice and understanding. Each time we catch ourselves in the act of taking offense, we have a choice point. We can continue down the familiar path of reaction, or we can pause, breathe, and remember the truth of who we are. With each conscious choice to release the hurt, to forgive, to return to center, we strengthen our capacity to remain unshaken. Over time, what once required great effort becomes increasingly natural until we find ourselves spontaneously responding to life's challenges from a place of inner peace. Yogananda's teaching that no one can insult or hurt us is ultimately a teaching about freedom. It is an invitation to step out of the prison of reactivity and into the vast space of conscious choice. It reminds us that while we cannot control what others say or do, we have absolute sovereignty over our inner state. This sovereignty is not something we must earn or achieve, but something we must simply claim, recognizing it as our birthright as expressions of the divine. In embracing these four truths, we discover that the world has not changed, but our relationship to it has transformed entirely. The same events that once caused us suffering now pass through our awareness like clouds across the sky, observed but not absorbed, witnessed but not internalized. We find ourselves capable of tremendous compassion because we are no longer defending a fragile ego. We discover reserves of strength we never knew we possessed because we are no longer depleting our energy in endless reactivity. And we taste a peace that truly does pass understanding, a peace that remains constant regardless of external circumstances. This is the liberation that Yogananda offered to all who would receive it, the recognition that we are already free, already whole, already invulnerable in our deepest nature. No one can insult or hurt us because the true self cannot be touched by anything of this world. It exists in eternal serenity, waiting patiently for us to remember and return home.